let's go ahead and listen to Secret Service Director Cheatle right now on Capitol Hill.
Testimony to opening statement to 5 minutes, but take all the time that you need. Obviously, the rules that we will abide by. When you're finished with your statement, we will then turn to questions. Each member will have 5 minutes. And just a note to the members, I'm going to strictly adhere to the 5 minutes. Once 5 minutes is up, I will hit the gavel. If the director is in the process of answering a question, we'll certainly let her finish her answers, and then we will move on. We're going to have about 100% attendance here today, plus a few additional add-ons. So this will be a very lengthy hearing, and we want to make sure every member gets their 5 minutes uninterrupted to be able to ask these important questions in this very bipartisan hearing today. I now recognize Director Cheatle for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Cheatle, and I'm the Director of the United States Secret Service. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. I would be remiss if I did not also extend my condolences on the passing of your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Ms. Jackson Lee was always engaged in the oversight of the Secret Service, and her passing is a great loss to this body. The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again. Let me state unequivocally, nothing I have said should be interpreted to place blame for this failure on our federal, state, or local law enforcement partners who supported the Secret Service in Butler. We could not do our job without them. We rely on the relationships built over years of working together to secure events and conduct investigations. Our agents, officers, and support personnel understand that every day we are expected to sacrifice our lives to execute a no-fail mission. As witnessed on July 13th, our special agents shielded former President Trump with their own bodies on stage while shots were being fired. Selflessly willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation, I am proud beyond words of the actions taken by the former president's detail, the counter-sniper team who neutralized the gunman, and the tactical team who was prepared to act. I will be transparent as possible when I speak with you, understanding, though, at times that I may be limited in providing a thorough response in this open setting due to associated risks with sharing highly sensitive protective methodologies. I do not want to inadvertently provide you today with inaccurate information. Since January 1st, 2024, the Secret Service has successfully secured over 7,500 sites. Every protective advance comes with its own set of challenges and requires a customized mitigation strategy, including specific assets. Security plans are multi-layered, providing 360 degrees of protection. These layers include personnel, technical, and tactical assets, which are a force multiplier for our protective posture. During every advance, we attempt to strike a balance between enabling the protectee to be visible and our protective requirements to be secure. I know this because I have spent 29 years in this agency. I came up through the ranks. I've secured events for every president since President Clinton, supervised on Vice President Cheney's detail, led our training center, oversaw all of the investigations and protective visits in the state of Georgia, supervised on Vice President Biden's detail, and the agency's entire protective mission during the Trump administration. The comprehensive advance process involves collaborative planning between our Secret Service, the protectee's staff, local law enforcement partners, and the level of security provided for the former president increased well before the campaign and has been steadily increasing as threats evolve. The security plan included a full assessment of the Butler Farm showgrounds to identify security vulnerabilities and craft a security plan for the protectee, attendees, and the public. Immediately following the assassination attempt, I directed the activation of my crisis center. I assembled my executive team to begin surging more protective resources to the former president and to ensure the wellness of our people post-incident, all while securing an active crime scene. I immediately ordered a reevaluation of the Republican National Convention security plan, and I increased the security posture in the National Capital Region for all permanent protectees and sites. At the same time, I initiated a mission assurance investigation within our agency. I have instructed my team that all necessary resources will be dedicated to investigating these matters. We will not rest until we have explored every option, and we will leave no stone unturned. But I want to be clear. I am not waiting for these investigations to be completed prior to making changes. Over the past 2 weeks, we successfully led the planning and execution of the 75th NATO Summit and the Republican National Convention. Over the next few months, we will implement security plans for the Democratic National Convention, the United Nations General Assembly, and have already begun planning and coordinating the 2025 inauguration. It is now more important than ever for the men and women of the Secret Service to remain resilient and to focus on what is necessary to carry out our critical mission. Our agency needs to be adequately resourced in order to serve our current mission requirements and anticipate future requirements. The Secret Service currently protects 36 individuals on a daily basis, as well as world leaders who visit the United States, like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who arrived in Washington, D.C. today. The coming years will bring an unprecedented heavy protection tempo. I have no doubt that the processes that I have implemented during my tenure as director, in addition to my nearly 30 years of experience in this agency, have positioned the Secret Service to be stronger. Our mission is not political. It is literally a matter of life and death, and the tragic events on July 13th remind us of that. I have full confidence in the men and women of the Secret Service. They are worthy of our support in executing our protective mission. I will now answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much, Director Cheatle. We'll now begin our 5 minutes questions, and I will begin. Just for the record, the Secret Service has an annual budget of around $3.1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
You can't, okay. Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Okay. Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
One of the things that you said, I believe, in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal, and do you fear that that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
So I appreciate you asking me that question, Chairman. I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service in general, not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are providing overwatch, whether that be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer. But can you answer this? Do you know, I'm not asking yes or no, but do you know if the shooter used a drone before the shooting?
That information has been passed to us from the FBI.
How many Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there, but we feel that there was a sufficient number of agents assigned.
There are reports that several agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents not normally assigned to President Trump. Is that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned to former President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide close protection to him, and that was what was actual on that day.
How many temporary agents were there that day?
Quite frequently, sir, during campaign events, the Secret Service utilizes agents from HSI or the Department of Homeland Security.
You don't know how many?
Supplement
you can't answer?
our plan.
Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise movements over the past days, weeks, and months?
So, again,
we need to have confidence that if the FBI is leading this investigation, that they're leading a credible investigation, because there's some of us sitting up here today that don't have a lot of confidence in the FBI. So I will repeat the question. Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise moments over the past days, weeks, and months?
I understand your question, Chairman, and I share your concerns about wanting to make sure that we have factual information. The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation. The Secret Service is conducting an internal investigation. There are a number of OIG investigations, and there is the external investigation that the President
Last question for me. Before July 13th, had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
What I can tell you is that for the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given.
Okay. My time has expired. Chair now recognizes Ranking Member Raskin for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been reported that before former President Trump got up on the stage at around 6 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, that the local police had identified and even photographed.
We have been listening to the opening statements of Secret Service Director Cheatle, as well as the first questions from the chair of the Oversight Committee, Congressman Comer. Now Congressman Raskin has the floor. We did hear from Cheatle say that the FBI has passed on information to the Secret Service that the gunman in this case, in the attempted assassination last Saturday, did fly a drone over the area the day prior to the event. Didn't confirm it was the day prior, but she confirmed that the FBI has passed on information about the gunman flying a drone over. And she also said that while they will be looking, of course, at all of their procedures that day, that they believe that they have a sufficient number of agents at the event that day. Let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd with us to provide some analysis. She was also the Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism and Threat Prevention at the Department of Homeland Security during the Biden administration. Sam, we know Cheatle's going to face some tough questions. It sounds like, because this is an ongoing investigation, one that the FBI is taking a hold of, I don't know how much information we're going to get out of it.
Well, it is unlikely that we're going to get a lot of information today for really two reasons. And I worked very closely with the Secret Service, including on critical protective missions. But in the first instance, a lot of what they do cannot be spoken about in a public setting. That's why typically the Secret Service will request a classified briefing where they can speak about classified information.
And why is that? Why can't she answer some of this stuff publicly?
They don't want to publicly message what their operational posture looks like, because if they do, that will allow bad actors, whether it be foreign adversaries, criminals, or others, to try to find gaps in the protective posture and to exploit them. And that's why you don't talk about OPSEC or operational security in open settings very frequently. And second, there are conflicting timelines here. The U.S. Secret Service is doing an internal review in addition to the Inspector General, the Department of Homeland Security, and an external investigation, an external review that President Biden announced last week. But those internal reviews do take time. So even if Cheatle had the answers, I'm not confident she would talk about them in an open setting. But I'm also not convinced that they have a full picture yet of the perpetrator, his movements, as well as what went wrong from a protective perspective.
And as part of the latter part of what you just said, I expect that we will get a lot of questions about that building, which was supposedly in the outer perimeter, that inner perimeter secured by Secret Service. We've been reporting that an outer perimeter was supposed to be in the purview of local law enforcement that Secret Service partnered with. We did already hear a question about that. What questions do you have about that specifically?
Well, I think talking about whose purview something was or wasn't is a bit of a red herring, because at the end of the day, by law, it is a U.S. Secret Service and U.S. Secret Service alone that is responsible for the ultimate protection of the protectee, in this case, Mr. Trump. And while local law enforcement is often used as part of the overall U.S. Secret Service protective plan, the real responsibility does lie with the U.S. Secret Service. And while there were various perimeters, while state and local law enforcement was used in various parts of the protective plan, at the end of the day, it was a failure, as Director Cheatle mentioned. It was a failure of the U.S. Secret Service to ensure that all of the right assets were in the right places.
So Cheatle says that the Secret Service protects 36 individuals on a daily basis, including other world leaders like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's going to be coming to the U.S. this week. Earlier, we had an expert on to say some of the questions she could face will be resources. Are they being efficiently managed? Do they need more resources? What do you expect her to say about this, and what do you expect are the hard questions that are going to come out of it?
I can say this from having worked hand in hand with the U.S. Secret Service. They don't have enough resources. We are in an unprecedented threat environment. We learned last week that there was another Iranian threat against Mr. Trump, and resources were up there. We're in the middle of election season when various threat streams are at an all-time high. And more generally, the State Department just issued a worldwide threat advisory for the entire world. So the level of threat against protectees has never been higher. And threat actors have never been more agile because of social media, as well as encrypted platforms and access to technology and weapons. So the Secret Service desperately needs more resources because of the heightened threat environment and the season that we're in.
Samantha Vinograd, thank you. And we will continue to monitor this hearing and bring you updates as we get them.